Cyberpunk 2077 has been a disaster for CD Projekt Red. As a consumer, I thought that the game's launch was really poor just because of how buggy and glitchy the game was. I thought that the content itself was really good. If it didn't have those problems, it would have probably been my game of the year easily. But for the developers from CD Projekt Red, it's been a complete nightmare, and I do really feel bad for them because while it was their choice to fix one bug in the game instead of another, and they chose what to fix and what to leave broken, they only had so much time because of the greedy executives that wanted this game to come out in time for the holidays and the new console rush basically. And the company's really feeling the burn of this launch now because not only are there massive refunds happening for the game, Sony also removed it completely from their digital storefront, and apparently staff at the company is really angry over everything that's happened. So I have a couple of articles that I wanted to reference. The first one is going to be a Business Insider article. Cyberpunk 2077 is so full of bugs that PlayStation has booted it out of its online store and offered refunds to players. So Sony on Thursday announced that not only will it be offering PlayStation players full refunds for the game, it will also be taking it off of its online storefront altogether. Now, we previously heard that Sony was giving consumers a hard time, saying you still have to fit into our guidelines basically, which is you can't have it downloaded and you can't launch the game, and then you can get a refund. But as the bugs were becoming more noticeable and people were pointing them out more, as you can see on Metacritic, the score is super low for the game, Sony just decided we don't want to deal with this anymore. We had so many people order this game and so many people are trying to refund it. We're basically just going to open the floodgates. Not only are we giving people full refunds, but we're also taking it off of the storefront for the time being, until the problems are fixed and until basically consumers can feel comfortable purchasing the game. So it says Sony Interactive Entertainment strives to ensure a high level of customer satisfaction, and following discussions with CD Projekt SA, the publisher and developer of Cyberpunk 2077, Sony Interactive Entertainment will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who purchase Cyberpunk 2077 via the PlayStation Store and want a refund at this time. Sony Interactive Entertainment will also be removing Cyberpunk from the PlayStation storefront until further notice. And this is a really crazy move by Sony. Yes, games have been taken off of this, Sony storefront before, the PlayStation storefront before, but we've never seen it in this massive size scale. I mean, let's look at games like Anthem and also Fallout 76. Sony didn't take down the games completely, and we know that the launch of Anthem was bad and the launch of Fallout 76 was a complete freaking disaster, yet those games didn't get taken off of the storefront. And I think a big reason why they took Cyberpunk off of the store is just because so many people purchased it and so many people were so excited about the game. They had high hopes for it, and they had a lot of sales of Cyberpunk for people who thought that this game was going to be amazing, game of the year, best game they've ever played, basically. So I just think it all, comes down to expectations. People had such high expectations for this game because CD Projekt Red hyped it up quite a lot, and unfortunately it didn't meet the expectations. But continuing on with the article, the game's publisher CD Projekt Red released a statement on Twitter about PlayStation's decision, and promised that they are working hard to bring Cyberpunk back to the PlayStation Store as soon as possible. Cyberpunk 2077 launched on December 10th, having originally been slated for April 2020. Now, Xbox actually did something very similar. Now, they did not remove Cyberpunk from the storefront as of the time of this video. They might end up doing the same thing as Sony, but they did put out this tweet, and it is front and center on their website. Cyberpunk 2077, to ensure that every player can get the experience they expect on Xbox, we will be expanding our existing refund policy to offer full refunds to anyone who purchased Cyberpunk 2077 digitally from the Microsoft Store until further notice. While we know the developers at CD Projekt Red have worked hard to ship Cyberpunk in extremely challenging circumstances, we also realize that some players have been very unhappy with the current experience experience on older consoles. And then it links to a page that basically says here, if you put in your account information, we will give you a refund for Cyberpunk. Now, I do know that the developers were under extremely challenging circumstances. First of all, the game needed a lot more work. They were already, needing to put a ton of time into this game, and then they had to crunch over the past couple of months because they knew that it wasn't going to be perfect. The executive said the best chance that we have to launch this game is to crunch our developers, and we also have things like the coronavirus going on, so there's just a lot of unfortunate circumstances surrounding this game's launch. And it is kind of unfortunate that this is the situation when it comes to PlayStation, because if you purchased a PlayStation 5 digital, unless you bought Cyberpunk already, there's no way for you to play Cyberpunk until further notice because, of course, you can't go out and buy a physical copy because you have the discless version of the console. It's all digital, so hopefully, if you were a PlayStation 5 player and you bought the all-digital console and you wanted to play Cyberpunk, you've already purchased it, but if you didn't, you're kind of out of luck for now. But unfortunately, the quality of the game wasn't amazing, so I do understand that there probably are people out there who could say, I could care less just because I wanted to wait until it was of better quality. So there was also a second Cyberpunk 2077 topic that I wanted to discuss, so I figured instead of making two videos, I'd throw it in here. This is a Game Informer article. Cyberpunk 2077 team responds to CDPR leadership following the chaotic launch of the game. So it says the Cyberpunk launch was one of the most anticipated launches in years, making its post-release hardships all the more shocking. From mismarketing to veiled review restrictions, even game-breaking bugs to the extent where many felt last-gen versions of the open-world game were something else entirely, it's been a tumultuous week for the Polish company. Following a public conference call that revealed more information about how little care went into the pre-launch prep, especially for the last-gen versions of the game, the atmosphere surrounding this game has been rife with tension, and it looks like it's the same way internally as well. In a recent report from Bloomberg, an internal video meeting took place on Thursday addressing the ongoing situation, the same day that Sony delisted the game from its platforms entirely. It was during that meeting that a frustrated and angry staff went directly to the board following another apology from management, and, according to the reports, many of the staff were met with vague responses. It was during this meeting that the staff aired their frustrations with questions to the board and upper management. It also was during this time that the management clarified Sony refunds, saying after the PlayStation refund chaos, they've reached a decision with the company. Shortly after that, Sony listed the game with CD Projekt Red, saying that this was a mutual decision. Now, CD Projekt Red probably didn't want Cyberpunk taken off of the storefront. It means that they get less money, they can't make money on the game that they've spent so long working on. It probably was the fact that CD Projekt Red went to Sony and said, we really need you to just refund whoever wants, refunds on the game because of everything going on. And Sony probably countered and said, okay, we'll refund anyone that asks for it as long as you take the game off of the storefront, which is probably why games like Anthem and Fallout 76 weren't taken off of the Sony store, because we have the situation where those companies like Bethesda probably didn't reach out to Sony saying, refund whoever wants the refund, and then this situation happened. So they are saying that it was a mutual decision, which clearly it was because it happened, but that's probably the way that it went. Continuing on, it says, as the meeting continued, the staff inquired about the additional hours put in leading up to the launch with the directors, and what the next step is, to which the directors themselves responded with assurances that they are going to improve production practices, though they reportedly did not specify how. This is unfortunate for employees of CD Projekt Red, being told we're going to change things, this and that's going to change by management, and then management doesn't give you answers. It sucks to be in a position where everyone is looking at you for answers, and even if you're just a developer who only worked on the game for a certain amount of time, people are still going to, in a way, blame you, which is unfortunate. The article says an additional staff member reportedly went to the jugular when asking if the board thought it was at all hypocritical when looking at the entire premise of Cyberpunk 2077 being anti-corporation and abuse when looking at the current situation. Bloomberg didn't say the response, but they note that it was vague and non-committal. As I've said in my own social media, and many others have also stated it on the industry side, many of the issues with this launch are a direct result of mismanagement on an executive level, setting unrealistic deadlines, making false promises, and attempting to hide unfinished aspects of the game. Post-launch, it's obvious to see that there were a lot of cut corners, but those cut corners are usually not out of laziness, but out of desperation to hit the board of directors' inspired deadline pace. It is a very unfortunate situation with what's happened with Cyberpunk 2077. I was someone who purchased, multiple copies of the game. I was given a PC copy. It was donated. I also got an Xbox copy, and I was hoping that this game was going to be perfect. It's very unfortunate that it wasn't what we all expected, really, at all. Yes, the story's good, characters are good, setting's good, voice acting's good, but it just has so many game-breaking bugs and glitches, followed with problems like the leadership, executives multiple months ago saying, oh yeah, the game runs surprisingly well on last generation consoles, yet this is the product that we get. But let everyone know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Did you purchase Cyberpunk, or did you decide to pass on it? And if you did, are you glad that you passed on it? If you enjoyed this video though, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way a ton, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.